Yeah,
anyways, the inspiration for the wall, Scott, comes from this guy's Instagram. He's got like all his Cobain guitars.
Oh,
wow.
He's got like his Nirvana collection all hanging up, right? And they're all like perfect to spec because he knows what he's doing. And so now he's like sponsored by a wall hanger, you know, as Instagram people get. It's a free wall hanger from that company. Thank you, you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. So, so this guy, I don't know how much money he's making. I'm sure he's making some, but it's inspiring to me. And I think it's awesome. So it's Nirvana Guitars. That's his Instagram handle. Nirvana Guitars. Not that anyone needs to care about the one. I'm just making an example.
Yeah.
So this guy is just such a fan of Nirvana that he's got all the guitars perfectly spec'd, perfectly built, exactly to Kurt's thing. He knows the history of every single thing that he ever did to his guitars. Yeah. He's got all his guitars. He's got all the right pedals. He's you know, mastered the proper tones for every album. He's just like deep dive master fan, right? And he's got a fucking Amazon store that sells all the parts you need, the stickers you need, the fucking pickups you need.
Nice.
Now he's making a living off something he loves. He's making money off something he loves. He's got like, you know, a couple 100,000 YouTube, like, you know, it's getting good for him. And I just like, it goes back to like what Gary Vee says about fucking just what do you love to do?
Yeah.
Like you now have this in your hand. You can communicate with the whole planet now. So there might only be 10 people in your area that care about your thing. And yeah, you can't make a living off 10 people, but there's 1 million people worldwide that care about your thing. And maybe you can make $1 from every one of them.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, and it just the power of the phone and the power of YouTube and the power of just loving something and putting it out there into the world. You know, I just think it's really cool. So this guy has turned his Nirvana obsession into like a really cool Instagram page, a great YouTube channel, and money flowing in. So it's just, you know, reminder to everybody, if you're thinking of doing something, man, just fucking just start chipping away, you know, they'll find you. So that's like Dusty and his cigars, you know,
true.
It's awesome. So episode number, we don't do numbers anymore.
Fuck, it doesn't matter.
We stopped doing numbers. I'm okay with that. Of course, Big Ron Partlow, Dusty Hanshaw, Scott McNally, our producer. I got a bunch of Instagram questions for us. Like, share, subscribe, comment.
And ring the bell. Ring it.
And comment with questions for the next show.
Bell. Yeah, and comment on YouTube with questions for the next show.
We get a lot of really good
remember, there you go.
Yeah.
Remember, Mutant? You got it. Mutant supports the show. So remember to go on iammutant.com with our discount codes, Big Ron 20, or you can use Dusty 20.
Exactly. You know what to do.
I tried to drop the enthusiasm a little bit just to see if you'd notice.
I felt it, but some people speak in that tone. They feel better. It's like if I yell at you, you don't really listen. But if I whisper, listen.
We could do the whole show like that.
Big Ron
20. They're going to hear that in their sleep now, and they're just going to start ordering middle of the night, Big Ron 20.
I hope so. Sleep ordering is where I make my bucks. I love your shirt. I'd hit that.
Yes, it's a 6.
Is there anything below that? Yeah.
It's just the cards because obviously, you know what that means. Yes.
Yeah.
I have a collection of shirts that I like to wear around at inappropriate times. This was just one of those moments, you know.
Perfect. I have a bunch
people
of cool
always seem to enjoy them.
I just bought a shirt that I'm really proud of, but I always feel like I like got a brand. I got to either be West Coasty or Mutiny on the show. You know what I mean? Occasionally I've worn like another gym shirt, but most of the time I just try to like brand. But maybe I'll move to like, you guys got like your fun shirts on today, you know? Maybe
well, you should. I mean, do you have like a Crew Jones Rad Racing shirt?
Actually, I have a Rad T-shirt. Yes, I do.
Do you really? That's amazing.
Yeah, I knew it.
That's amazing.
My buddy,
that should be worn for sure.
Okay. How about I wear the Rad shirt next time?
Good. That's
for sure. At episode number, who fucking cares?
Yeah. Okay. What's new with you guys? Any stories we missed since last episode? Anything important? I feel like nothing really happens in my life. You know what I mean? That's outside of going to the gym. And
I got it. You flew to Vegas. You flew
I'm
to
thinking that
Dallas.
too.
You flew to.
yeah, but
We're
that's
going
all
to
been talked
England.
about already on the last show.
We're going to England. We got to go to freaking Dubai.
Oh,
We got
wow.
a lot of stuff going on.
You guys are going to Dubai.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to Dubai end of October for the muscle show.
I wish you guys had more to do, Ron. I wish you didn't have such a boring
I know.
life. You know?
They just do anything.
That's
Nothing.
amazing. Have you guys been to Dubai before?
Ron has, right?
I was in Dubai, and so the good thing about this trip to Dubai is that I get a redo of my last trip to Dubai, which did not turn out well. And so that's a good chance to like have a lot more fun this time. My last trip to Dubai, I think I mentioned it, I got sick on the way over there on the plane. Like on the plane, I was like, I'm getting sick. You know, and by the time I got to London and I was like waiting for my flight to Dubai, I was like full on like looking for nasal spray and cold meds. And I got on the plane. I was like, I couldn't breathe through my nose, and my eyes were both running, like watering and running. And I was like getting hit with a brutal head cold. And I started to get like where you can't make a fist, you know?
Oh, God.
And by the time I got off the plane in Dubai, I was just full blown like cold / flu-y mess. I looked like a mess. So if you take enough pseudoephedrine, your eyes will stop running and you can actually like look like you're okay. You know, you can like bluff that you're not completely brutally sick and contagious, and then you can go to the expo and shake hands with everybody. So of course that's what I did. This is pre-COVID. You just drug up. No one cares about your germs. They just care about how you look, right?
Yeah. We just need you here. That's all we need.
We just need you here. Make yourself presentable. Wash your hands. We don't care. Like pre-COVID, no fucks given. Show up at the expo.
Yeah.
So I just like sucked it up. I didn't even train. I was there. I was in Dubai for 5 days. Didn't leave the hotel to do anything except go to the expo. And then the very last day we were there, I started to feel a little better. Like I was like, oh fuck, just in time to go home, you know?
Yeah.
And I had a client there, this awesome client I had there that I helped out. She took me out to a restaurant at a mall for a meal. We had a good time. And that mall had like the biggest fucking shark tank I've ever seen in my fucking life inside it, like this giant aquarium that was like 1 million gallons. It was like a city block aquarium. Like it was fucking massive. And I remember just thinking like, oh, the whole city's like this. And I didn't really get to see much.
Damn.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I did see the Burj. I stood like at the bottom of the Burj and looked up. That was kind of close to our hotel, so it was no big deal. But it was incredible to stand below it and look up at it. It's like unbelievably tall. Like you can't wrap your brain around it. And they got this. I was eating at like a cafe outside the Burj, like looking up, you know. And they do this thing when it gets nighttime. The whole Burj like does this light show. Like the whole building is lit up. Just does this like light dance. I'm sure you've seen videos of it. But it was pretty crazy. But yeah, I didn't see much of the city at all, and I was super sick the whole time. So I'm looking for a redo.
That's cool.
That's what happens when he travels without me. Just goes sideways. So here I am to save the day.
You know?
And when do you guys do that?
So end of October.
End of October.
And what's that for?
Muscle show. Big expo there.
Nice.
Yeah, the Dubai Muscle Show. It's supposed to be a good expo, you know. I mean, it was good when we went. And I tell you, the booth was so busy. It was me and Johnny Jackson. And I remember we were just like slammed signing all day, pictures. Yeah, it was crazy.
I hear the fans over there are real avid fans. Like there's a lot of people that really like bodybuilding, like a lot of people who enjoy going to the shows, a lot of people who are passionate about watching the sport.
Yeah.
Didn't you find that though, Scott, when you were in England too, though, like how many people knew you? And like, because I feel like the first time I went to England, I was stunned because I was not just an amateur, but a very beginning in the sport, like as far as on the public side.
Yeah.
And so I kind of assumed, like when I did the Arnold the first year, like I worked the booth like anybody else, you know. No one gave a fuck or knew who I was. And then maybe, you know, I don't think I had done like the USA's yet. And I went to England and people knew me and I was like, why? Weird. Who dat?
I felt like in England, the difference I felt was that people were a lot more laid back and real. Versus when I think of the Arnold, I think of like there's still kind of like a wall between the people on the other side of the booth and the audience or the fans. Versus I felt like everybody was like a lot more like interacting it was just more cool, more low key. And yeah, it was cool to meet a bunch of people. It's weird to go across the world and meet people that actually know who you are. Like it's a trip, especially for me. I wasn't a pro like you guys, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. You think about like, like back in say the 90s, if you, how do I put this? No one recognized you for anything unless you were pretty famous.
Like magazines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you had to be in magazines or the news.
Yeah.
Like, so like the only people that got recognized were like millions of people knew who they were. That's what it took. Like you could be in a band that sold 100,000 records and you wouldn't get recognized anywhere at all except in your hometown.
Yeah.
But now you could be a bodybuilder with a YouTube channel and people recognize you in airports all over the world.
Yeah.
Smoke shops. Weed stores,
smoke shops, and weed stores, and gyms. It's you know what I mean. It's just changed. It's crazy how much easier it is to be like an F-list celebrity.
I'm a Z, like, but yeah, I follow you.
Just like, and you know, like obviously celebrity's a spectrum, but like just to experience any kind of celebrity,
yeah,
you know, is a lot more common now than it used to be, because it used to be you had to break that glass ceiling of like really getting exposure from, you know, channels and news and all that.
Yeah.
So it's just, we have so much more power ourselves to promote ourselves now. It's a crazy shift, and it's only happened in the last really 10 years, 15 years has been this massive shift to where we can create our own sort of, you know, present ourselves to the world without anyone else doing it for us. It's crazy.
There was a very popular women's physique competitor who had retired, and I found out she had a lot of followers. She started in OnlyFans, and from what I understand, she's making she just decided to do this, and she's making like a ton of money. And imagine like if you just start that up, and let's say you're pulling in like $25,000 a month. Like you could do that for a couple of years, and that's like your entire life's worth of money. That's all you need. You retire 2 years. You know, it's crazy to think. And yeah, that you couldn't have done that, you know, a decade ago.
Good for her. Like
bullshit.
Do what you got to do. I never knock anyone's hustle. That's one thing. Like, especially when it comes to like, you know, whatever it is, whether it be OnlyFans or you got a goofy YouTube channel about fucking, you know, My Little Pony or whatever the fuck you're into. Like, you know, we used to make fun of nerds. Remember, you know, like nerds, but I always loved nerds because I thought, fuck, that's going to pay off for that guy.
Yeah.
Like someday someone's going to want to interview an expert, and that guy's the fucking expert. You know what I mean? And I always kind of admired that
guy.
Right. And I guess I also felt like I was a bit of a nerd with so many of the things I liked. I would always get so much deeper into them than most of the other people.
Yeah.
You know, like say, oh, you're a fan of that too? Oh, blah, 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 blah. And they'd look at me and go, I don't know what you're talking about. And so I sort of admire that level of, you know, nerddom and going down the, you know, chasing your thing. Like I talked about at the beginning of the show. And so I never knocked the hustle. Like sometimes, man, the best move is to cash out. Like, you know, that's the move. Sure. Make your fucking money. There's no other money coming from this.
Yeah.
You know? So
I think you got to factor in too. I mean, it's something Ron and I had to work through too, is as your career changes, like that individual, you said she used to compete. Well, she doesn't anymore.
Yeah.
Well, now what? like if she doesn't change and redirect her focus into somewhere where her current following might go with her,
right?
Eventually you lose it, you know. So it's the same. Like if you're even if you're a great pro, well, then you got to become an ambassador of some sort, or what you did back in the day doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not the same. I mean, I think about that. I've had conversations with kids now about bodybuilding, and they truly don't know how dominant Ronnie was other than what they're told. And I'm like, it's different, you know, but you have to kind of factor through, because some of them, you know, same thing. Like when you talk about like Lebroni and you're like, oh, you could meet him. They're like, why? Because he's just a supplement owner now. You know what I mean, to them. So I think it's great. You definitely have to. It was something I looked at as I realized I was done. I'm like, well, now what? Like, how do you keep presenting yourself in a way that someone cares? And thank God Ron nagged me into a podcast, and here we go.
As I was desperately trying to think of something, you know.
And thank God he came through. I needed it.
Yeah.
So you got some. You did a question box. You get good ones.
I did a question box. First question, actually, this one's funny. I won't say who asked it, but it's someone in the know. How are the three of you spending your Mutant podcast sponsor riches?
Wow. All of them. I think I spend it on monsters. Every month.
It covers your monster habit for a month. Is that what it covers?
Well, there's four of us drinking them in this house, so
that adds up.
The monsters.
That adds up.
It absolutely does.
That's funny. I still need to buy a better webcam with mine. I gotta.
Are you doing OnlyFans too?
Yeah. It pays.
Not what he meant.
I hear it pays really good.
Drop it here. We'll do a link.
That's funny. Yeah. I think I do need a new webcam. If anyone out there, well, I'm sure Scott has the recommendations, but maybe it's just fun to ask the audience.
Yeah.
Anyone have a webcam that you suggest that's really going to help this situation without breaking the Mutant sponsorship bank? Because I'm not going into my own fucking pocket for a webcam. It's going to come out of this money for sure. So it's got to be, you know, decently priced, considering it can only make me look so good. And you know, mainly I'm concerned about whether my guitars look hot. If there's a webcam that'll make them look pretty sharp, that would be cool.
Also, I should add, while we're asking the audience stuff, would they prefer that we did widescreen versus the little slivers that we currently have, the split screen like this? Because we could
what
do.
What does widescreen look like?
We could do widescreen
right now.
I don't know if I can at the moment. Let me see here.
Do you mean where the camera keeps switching depending on who's talking?
No. Where we would all be widescreen. I could try to set it. I can't do it at the moment. I'd have to reset.
So you mean
it.
we'd be stacked? We'd be stacked on top of each other, you mean?
It would look. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can do
like
this.
Like a Ron sandwich.
Let me see.
I'm the bread, you're the bread. Oh, whoa.
Like this.
Yeah, totally. That's what I was trying to say.
Well, okay. It would take me a minute to set it up.
Squares.
Yeah, but there would only be 3 squares for...
Can't we just put Mutant in the 4th square? We could have a little Mutant sign in the 4th square.
We could. Normally what I've done when I've done that is I have like 1, 2, and then 3rd in the middle, like down, you know what I'm saying? And we could have a Mutant thing. For sure, in the background of it. It could work. But that would be an option if we wanted to do that. Just throwing it out there.
Or Ron's
let's see what the
link.
people think.
Yeah.
People.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm so disappointed.
Little live stream to Ron's OnlyFans.
It's me doing peg wheelies on my bike in a circle for an hour.
Naked.
Learn a new trick. I'm trying. Yeah. People ask me all the time, are you going to learn a new trick? You keep posting the same 10 tricks. I'm like, I got like, do you realize how hard these tricks are? They take thousands and thousands of attempts to learn. And I got like 5 more that I'm breaking. They're going to come soon. You see a flood of new clips as soon as I can just over this hump.
Do you have any that you get and then you don't get them for like 100 tries?
No.
You
so
generally
far,
start to get them once you get them.
Yeah. Once you get him, that's is on. Yeah. Well, once you get him, you're like, okay, that trick's on the ropes now. So you got to go back out the next day and you got to pull it twice. And then you got to go out the next day and pull it twice again to make sure your nervous system's like cemented. And now you're like, I have that trick, and you make sure you get it every session at least once. You know what I mean? And get it. Yeah, that's how it works usually. I guess when you go up the ladder, when you get those guys, combos are a different thing. Like if you're doing a new trick by itself and you're learning like a single trick, I guess that's a different thing. But combos, like if you're trying to do like 3 tricks in a row all linked, that you might get, and then you don't get it again for like weeks. You're like, fuck, just to get to like the 4th trick in the combo is like hard. You know what I mean? But it's really fun to watch really good riders work on something. I rode with my buddies the other day, and my buddy was like working on a new combo, and he like fucking built it like in the course of an hour. He like built it like and got all the way to like the 4th move in the combo, and he must only done like maybe 30-40 attempts at that combo, but he's been riding for 30 years, so he can like do that. He can learn something in a day, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to do this. I really think this is possible. And he'll like figure it out in a day. And he's like, okay, got it. Now I got to pull it every day I ride for like a while, and it'll come. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's interesting. It's a different thing. It's fun. You
How's it work in competition?
Question, Scott.
No, I am. How's it work in competition? Like, is it I don't know if this is the right word, like a run where you do like a certain amount of time to do tricks, or what is it? Yeah. So to keep it real simple, most riders, the good riders I'm talking about, they consider themselves either contest riders or video riders. Those are kind of the 2 main guys. Some guys aren't as interested in competing. They used to do that. They rode back in the 90s. Now they do video edits. So they work on extremely hard shit, and they just try to get it on video once.
Okay.
Right? And you'll see them pull it, but that doesn't mean they have it wired. They might be pulling it 1 out of 100 times, but they get it on video, and they're the first one to get that combo, and they put it up, and they're like, there, I got that. I'm the first guy to do that. And that's like all the satisfaction in the world. Contest riders are different because you can't touch the ground. Every time you touch the ground, you lose points, right? So the whole, like the big thing is to pull a perfect run where, you know, a flawless run where you don't touch the ground, right? So typically contest riders don't tend to do their hardest shit in the run because it's too much of a risk. So they'll weigh like, what do I have to do to beat these other guys? And if they can phone it in and do an 80% run because they're so good that their 80% is going to win, and then they won't touch the ground, that happens. So sometimes you'll get a winner of a contest and the other guys are like, he didn't do his hardest tricks. It's like, yeah, but he didn't have to. The whole point was to be flawless. Also, contest riders, they're like, those guys have to ride like 6-8 hours a day because those combos they're pulling are so fucking ridiculous. And to have them wired enough to pull them in a run is just bizarre. Like contest riding to me is just so mind-boggling difficult to actually be able to pull stuff under pressure in the moment. Like it's just, I have so much respect for those guys. You know, you see those X Games skaters and stuff. It's one thing for them to pull that stuff on their own time, but for them to go out in the gold medal run and pull it all and not fall off and just have everything go perfectly. And then they nail the 900 at the end and the double fucking flare and they fucking land it all. Like that's just, people don't get how hard that is. And they're even, when they do it, they're not like, oh yeah, there's my run. They're like, I can't fucking believe I pulled that run. Like, cause they're pushing it, you know, they go home thinking, I can't believe I didn't fucking touch, you know? So it's like, it has to all come together.
I found a YouTube page the other day. It was actually a few weeks ago. Guy who rides BMX bikes. Now he's not doing flatland tricks like you do, Ron. But he is doing tricks, and he just has these GoPro set up on his bike, and he'll be like, the video will be called like Compton, and then he just goes to Compton and just like thrashing. He's going through alleys and up on walls, you know, and then he might like stop and talk to somebody for a minute, and you know, there's a car accident, he sees that going on, and it's just like a half-hour video of him like jumping off shit. It's cool, man. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, those street guys that like ride brakeless through busy cities.
Oh yeah, some of that was nuts. Holding on to buses.
With no brakes on their bike. Yeah, it's just fucking. There's also some crazy videos
brakes?
of those guys like. While street riders are so abusive on their bikes, their rims are all bent up. So if they have brakes on their bikes, the brake pads will rub on the rims. That's one reason. Secondly is brakes are uncool. Some of the guys think brakes aren't cool, right? They're like, just want minimal bikes. They want their bike to be really light. So just take all the brakes off of it. You know, a lot of guys ride brakeless. It's, you know, and then the Flatlanders, a lot of Flatlanders ride brakeless now because they're trying to like, I guess, prove a point. Like, I'm such a master of my bike. Huh. It's all about balance. I'm never going to need a brake. You know what I mean? So, but there's tricks I like that require a brake, and I like the old school stuff. So that's why I have brakes. Plus, the brakes have saved my face a lot because when your front wheel's going to wash out from underneath you and you tap your brake and it stands you back up, that's like, okay. I got a question box here. If I can fucking find it. Okay. I got to watch the Jamie the Giant was on Flex Lewis's podcast. I'm going to check that out. Remember when Jamie said he came back from Flex's and Flex made him cry?
Yeah.
Did you hear that whole story? Yeah.
No.
So if you want to see Jamie the Giant cry.
So Flex the bully. That you heard it here first. Ron said it.
So Jamie told me that him and Flex started the podcast and they went for like 40 minutes. And then apparently Flex stopped the podcast. And he's like, no, this isn't going to do. We got to restart. And Jamie's like, what? He's like, yeah, we got to restart. You're just getting relaxed now. We got to restart. I'm going to ask you that question about your family again. We're going to start from the beginning. Now that you're relaxed and I'm relaxed, it's going to be better.
Nice.
And they restarted the podcast. And within like an hour, Jamie said he was crying. And Flex is like, I fucking got you.
People really liked him on our show. They said, speaking of like being relaxed, they're like, you guys just all gelled really well together. And I saw that too. After doing, so many interviews with these podcasts, he was one of those guys that like, he just jumped on and he was just like, he was right there with us, one of us. You could tell like he was totally like ready to just do whatever.
He's good on podcasts. He's a good speaker too.
Yeah.
And he speaks like, proper British,
True. I wonder if he'll still be good now that he's high. Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe transforms everything. What TV shows do you wish weren't canceled when they were canceled and you wanted more and they ended? Can you think of any? Do you remember that they canceled Family Guy at one point?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
Early on too, wasn't it?
Early on. I think it was season 2, didn't they? And I think it was 2002. Yeah, Family Guy was canceled after 3 seasons due to low ratings. But then the fans got so upset and there were so many people saying like, we want the show back, and then they brought it back. Yeah.
I'm doing some Google work over here because I have to see a couple shows if they got canceled or not. So continue speaking. I think.
Yeah, that was funny. You know what show was brilliant and they canceled it? I'm going to say this is my answer. So Arrested Development is one of my favorite comedies of all time. It's brilliant. The writing is just unbelievably good. The script is so layered. Like there'll be 2 characters talking and there'll be a third character in the background that'll like moan or say one word, and it's like half volume, but that's the joke.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And only the people smart enough, you have to be smart enough and into the show enough to like be paying attention to those background things for it to all come together. And it's what makes it so fucking awesome. But what happened was early on in the 3rd season, they all found out they were getting canceled. So they just went ham with the script and they just fucked with the show, and they just went And the third season's really, really hilarious.
No kidding.
But it gets really weird. The third season gets really weird because they know they're getting canceled. And then the show ended a little. Yeah, so they didn't give a fuck. And the show ended. Like 10 years later, Netflix did a fourth season. And the fourth season was interesting, but it wasn't the same because like a whole decade gone by and like they weren't in the groove. You know what I mean? They tried to write another season out of nowhere. And so it was really a weird season. It was really weird, but it was still enjoyable. But I wish they wouldn't have canceled it in season 3. I wish they would have let it go like 4 or 5 good seasons and then end it right, you know? But that show to me is that's one of the funniest shows of all time. And anyone out there who loves Ozark and likes Jason Bateman and likes Horrible Bosses and likes all that stuff that Jason Bateman's done, Arrested Development is his like tour de force comedy show. Like he is the you know that character that's smarter than everyone and he just can't believe the world he lives in? That's Jason Bateman. Just endlessly frustrated with his whole family. They're just clueless, rich, spoiled brats. And he's like the one member of the family that's like, these fucking people, right? It's a great show.
All right. I couldn't. So the one I thought might have been canceled wasn't. So they're moving it. I got into Hightown, which was frustrating in the beginning, but I actually loved it. And it's 2 seasons down. They are having a third season. They just moved it to Stars. But I will say, and this is, Peaky Blinders didn't have to end.
Did they end it?
I'm okay with it's done.
How many seasons?
So that was it. That was it. Was it? I don't even know. It was 6 maybe. But it's done. Okay. And it didn't like. It wasn't even. And don't get me wrong. I much prefer, just like athletes, I rather you retire before the game retires you. But that one definitely left me wanting more. But they did a good job of ending it because, like, I feel like some shows, for example, like Game of Thrones, they didn't know how to end it, so they fucking ruined when they ended it. Which, by the way, I just started watching the prequel Game of Thrones last night.
Right.
So good. I watched the first episode, not the second, but that's going to be phenomenal. But because there are other shows where you're like, okay, I see what happened. They had to make it come to an end, so they just like slammed it to a screeching. Dexter that just ended, I was like, that's it? Yeah. You came back to do that? Yeah. Like the season was great, but then, wah, you know what I mean? And that show's over as well. I was really thrown off again. That's one of those ones where they ended the series, brought it back however many years later. I felt like they hit the ground running immediately with the show.
They could have kept going.
And then ended the show.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just warmed up again. Nikki had never even seen the original ones.
Oh, wow.
I said, you'll be fine. Just jump in. And it took like 2 episodes for her to be like, oh, yeah, I'm fucking in.
The sense,
and then it ended,
the sense of place that they created with that little town in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
Like that sense, the feeling you got. Like I could have lived in that little town for several seasons. They could have kept running with that. Yeah.
So those are mine. Yeah. But I'm very grateful to find out on my little Google trip that my Hightown's not over. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
I thought
that's
you guys,
sort of like. Go ahead.
I thought of you guys. We watched a movie the other night. We don't watch a lot of movies. We watched that Nick Cage movie a few days ago. It was like the unbearable weight of amazing talent or something like that, where he plays himself, and that was good. That was good. But then the night before last, we watched a documentary called Running with the Devil, and it was a story about John McAfee, the guy who created the antivirus. And this dude is fucking nuts. And he is accused of murdering his neighbor in Belize, and then he goes on the run, and he takes a camera crew with him from Vice, who's like on the run with him. And then it was never released. Vice canceled the video. So this whole thing kind of like it's basically his life from that point, and then it picks up at other parts, and he goes on the run a few times. And this is one of the most smartest people in the world. Like he worked for NASA, is like a programmer. He developed like the best antivirus. He said that he had information on the cartel and on all the government agencies, like that he could get into all their computers, and so that they were after him. But he may have just been crazy and on drugs. And there's guns. It's crazy.
Everything a man. There's guns. There's dogs. There's sex. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. And he was a brilliant guy, but a really weird dude. So I think you guys, Ron, you might enjoy that one. That was weird. It's called Running with the Devil.
Do you catch what just happened there? He said he's a brilliant guy, but a little weird. Ron, you might identify with him.
You might. I didn't say. Yeah, you might. Yeah, you might identify with him.
Might be your brother. Anyways,
I also was recommended to watch The Girlfriend That Didn't Exist documentary on Netflix now. It's about that Notre Dame football player that got catfished a few years ago.
I did see that. Yeah, I did see that.
Anyways, I don't know the full story. I didn't really pay attention. I just know that he was like humiliated.
Yeah.
Wasn't he like humiliated, like real bad, because everyone was making fun of him? And I don't know the full story. I don't remember how it ended, but the documentary is supposed to be crazy.
Huh. So
I'll check it out. Okay. What's another question? We have another question? Here's a bodybuilding one. Boring. Can you explain? Yeah. Boring. Nobody cares. Can you explain the theory? Nobody cares. Can you explain the theory behind post-show rebound for adding lean mass versus just getting fat? How do you know how much to push? So, You want to start with this one, Dusty?
I actually think it's a great question, honestly, and for me, difficult to answer. I'm not a huge believer in this magic window like everyone else is. I think that yes, you're hypersensitive to a lot of things, but I think we kind of lie to ourselves because you're so depleted. I think we've all done this. I definitely have, where you're pushing food down and you just get bigger and better and better and better, and you're like, holy shit, it's never going to end. And then you wake up one day and you're fucking fat.
Yeah.
Like the next day. It's just gone. It all ended. I'm like, what the fuck happened last night? I didn't even have any pizza. But I really do think the reason that I came up with this theory on myself was because I did have a prep one year where I was fucking mangled after the show. I did a couple shows. So I actually like immediately went off, like not just off my shit. Like I didn't train. Took 2 or 3 weeks off. Then when I came back, I kind of eased back in. My body was still hurting. It was probably about 6 weeks right after the show in 2010 that I was barely training, And then I went back into off season on 200 milligrams of test, did normal. Without question, the greatest jump in my entire career was between 2010 and 2011. Even though I had a better placing in 2010, I was bonkers as far as how much size I put on, and none of that happened after the show. So I don't really buy into it too much. Yeah. So what do you got?
Well, I think the post-show rebound is largely illusionary. Don't get me wrong. You're adding lean tissue. Like on a DEXA scan, your lean tissue is going up, right? Because cellular volume is like maxed out. But some of that's super compensation. And it's like an abnormal amount of fullness that you're actually not going to sustain. And eventually some of it's going to like come back out sort of and decrease. It also depends. It depends on how shredded did you get. Is there room to push the rebound? You know what I mean? How many calories were you eating at the end of your diet? Because the lower your calories at the end of your diet, the more noticeable the more like, sudden, if you go to like high calories, you could put on a lot more fat, that sort of thing. Guys that have those good metabolisms, they can go into a rebound and bump their calories up a lot and they stay lean. Like, you know what I mean? We've all seen that. And we've seen people that just get super fat after the show. And they're usually the ones who had like really sludgy metabolisms going into the show. You know what I mean? They were like forcing it. And then post show, they just get real fat and watery. So it's like you said, Dusty, I think the magic is way overrated. But you still should strategically take advantage of the time to the best of what you need. So you needed to rest. I've been there before. I've done shows and then not trained for like 10 days and then like come back into the gym like, okay, let's get, you know what I mean? And then I've done shows where the Monday after the show, I was back on 300 test and I'm going to eat perfect and have one cheat meal a day and try to put on 30 good pounds by the end of the month, you know? So it just depends on how burned out are you, how much food were you eating going in. There's a lot of factors. So this is like the longest non-answer I think we can give.
But we did so good not answering. We did so good not answering. It just
depends. I think you should get off all your drugs except maybe a bit of test. And you should just, you know, you should enjoy your food. Like, I think the mental break is so important. People don't, I know some bodybuilders that after the show, they're right back on prep mode, prep brain, you know, going to get maximum advantage. Every single thing's perfect. That's like, that's good. It's good to have the intent, but I still think you should like give your brain some space and, you know, fucking have an ice cream cone. Jesus, fucking enjoy yourself a little bit. You know what I mean? So don't be extreme either way. How's that?
That's perfect.
I like that.
Okay. Does it matter if you drink your coffee first thing in the morning and then start your water after? I know they say this dehydrates you, but God, I just want my coffee.
I love this question because I feel it in his soul. Like,
right?
It's like, I'm not going to tell that guy he must drink his water.
Don't talk to me yet.
Right.
I mean, my thought is simple. You wake up dehydrated. Yeah. So yeah, you are dehydrated. I don't think that having a cup or 2 cups of coffee before you have your water is the end of the world. I wouldn't now go start your day. You know, like have your cup of coffee, then drink your water. That goes back to the overthinking. I don't think they're overthinking. I think they're hearing other people that are. Like, what could possibly be the huge difference? You're asking that question is being asked or explained to somebody as if caffeine is 50 milligrams of diazide. Like,
yeah.
It's fine.
So I get up in the morning and I take my diazide first thing in the morning. Yeah. I know. Yeah, that's a very good point. So this is so if you train after meal 1, maybe there's more of an urgency to like pound a liter with some salt in it first thing.
Yep.
Like, let's say you're training at 7 a.m. and you get up at 5. Maybe you want to get a liter of like with some salt, pound a liter, get it through you, then have your coffee with your breakfast and that sort of thing. I mean, there's possible that there's an argument that would be a better way to do it. But yeah, I think this kind of overthinking is like, I take in a liter of water and my coffee with my breakfast.
Yeah.
There.
And I don't, I don't eat at all before I train anymore.
I'm double fisting, right?
Yeah. So I just wake up and fasted, I do the, so I do the gear, with water, which is Mutant's EAA. I do 2 scoops of that in a liter and just slam it right away. And then, you know, take the dogs out, do their thing, and then have my coffee. But that's just because I am very mindful of the fact that in an hour and a half, I'm underweight. And one thing I think is understated is how strong you are hydrated and how weak you are dehydrated.
Absolutely.
Not just injury, but just weak. I mean, it's a minimum to me to have a liter with that because that's the sodium, that's the aminos, all of the above. But I mean, it's not rare for me to get to the gym an hour and a half after waking up and have 2 liters down. Like, the more, the better to me. So if you're ever wondering if that might be a chink in your armor, it is. If you ever think, am I not drinking enough? You're not. For sure.
Right.
You know, I used to argue that if you're ever thirsty, you're dehydrated.
I want everyone who hasn't already done this, put some salt in your pre-workout and your intra-workout.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like, put like several grinds, like crunch, crunch, crunch. Put that in your pre and then crunch, crunch, crunch in your intra-workout. and just pay attention to your pumps and everything. Like I look back on like the entire decade of the 90s, and don't get me wrong, I had plenty of sodium in my diet because like we were putting lots of stuff on our food. But I just think like, fuck, I was just drinking just straight water. That's all I drank. I never put salt in my water until like, you know, within the last 10 years, we started doing that. But you just think like, man, I think it's like a big deal. Like I notice it, you know, I really like that high sodium. I tell stories about how I used to have Edo Japan, you know, that like mall food court.
Oh, yeah.
Edo. I don't know if you guys have Edo down there. I can't remember, but I used to have Edo Japan all the time. And then I'd train like 90 minutes later. And I remember looking back now, I'm like, that's where the pumps were coming from. It's having like
sodium loading.
Sodium in my pre-workout meal. You know what I mean? So it was like awesome.
That was the pumps and the post-workout nap from the MSG.
Yeah, it was old school. The MSG, the strongest sodium of them all. The monosodium. Yeah. The tren of sodium. Yeah, exactly. That's what you want. Gym membership prices. Why are gyms so much more expensive suddenly?
Everything's expensive. It's just it's life right now.
What do you guys see for gym membership prices?
It all varies. Obviously on where you're going. You're going to pay, to me, average is like $40. It's normal, American. Like that's what we charge at Muscle Factory. It's $40 a month, no contract. Then I had gym memberships before that have been $150 a month. Just depends on the gym, what they have. I think this is how I look at things differently than a lot of people. Is it amazes me that people will say like a gym membership is expensive. I'm like, well, how many days a week do you go? It's $40.
Oh, I know.
Okay, and you're going 5 days a week. Oh, you go twice a day sometimes, do cardio. So you're visiting there 10 times a week. So you're going there so it's $1 every time. I don't follow the expensive thing. You've lost me.
Yeah.
Because when you look at other things that we do for a quick hit, somebody will say a gym membership is expensive while drinking a $7 coffee.
Yeah.
Like, or they'll pay $15 for a tanning drop in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so gym memberships appear like $80, like 80 to 100 even. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
what is it? But
so
truthfully, all kidding aside, like what is 80? Like 60-ish?
60 US. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not bad. Plus, I think one thing that makes the gym prices, at least in a lot of places I've been, lower here is there's more. So you're dealing with that. The number of gyms around were ridiculous in Scottsdale. When I used to go to Muscle Factory, like as in literally passing them, as in I could see them, I would pass 5 gyms to get to the gym. Like I'm not talking about how many I actually passed. There's ones I could visually see. So I think that keeps the prices down as well. But I also think that, people need to be a little more mindful is like, even if you're paying $100, okay, in the US, think about what you're asking for. You want the equipment to be perfect. When it breaks, you want it fixed. You want the pads done. You want the air conditioning on. You like the music, the bathroom. Like, I don't think people think of what it costs to run a gym properly. When you run a gym right, and that's what I want. Like, if the gym came to me and they said it's $200 a month, but it'll be fucking flawless, I'd be like, done. Let's go.
I would definitely
pay more.
Another thing too,
for those things.
We also learned with the fucking pandemic response that gyms are seen as expendable by the general public. The general public doesn't think that what we do is important, and they think it's selfish, and they think it's frivolous, and they don't give a fuck about us or our industry. And we have to realize that alone is going to raise the price of everything to do with it, because all the owners now know that the government is not ever going to have our backs. And, it's going to change the dynamic of the gym industry. Probably the best thing about the pandemic, I was thinking about this the other day, Not that I want to talk about the fucking pandemic, but the best thing about it is that it woke a lot of people up to the concept that the government doesn't give a fuck about you. And a lot of them hate you. They fucking hate you. They think your life is stupid. They don't give a fuck about you. These gray-haired politicians and all the people that are in office and all your local people, they don't give a fuck about you. This is a paycheck, and most of them are career politicians, and they will never care what you care about what you care about.
I agree wholeheartedly.
That's a good wake-up call. That's a good wake-up for people.
Yeah.
Your politicians are not your friends. None of them. Even the ones that glad hand you and smile at you and return your emails, none of them. None of them. Yeah. And the faster you realize that, the faster you realize that, the better off you'll be. These fucks, this is a paycheck for them, and they're going to give themselves a raise while they shut your business. They just did it to everybody for 2 years. And it's the best thing that could have happened. A lot of people realize now. They realize now.
Well, I don't know if you saw this, Ron, but in the U.S. when they've made this bill to hire all these new IRS agents, Congress also passed a thing saying that they couldn't be looked at.
Interesting.
Yeah, so to save time. Save time.
Yeah, to save time. You can't look at this small handful of people that are in this room, but you can look at everyone else. It's like, no, you're literally saying because you can't look at me because I'm paying people off, I'm bribing, I'm using information I know to. Yep, exactly. So that was something I had to wait. I mean, even who I always had a very strict political side. Now I realize both sides hate me.
Yeah,
and that has helped. I'm like, neither one of you are. It's not you and you against each other. It's us against you guys, and you against all of us. Okay, got it.
Another thing people have to realize is their vote is never. You're never actually voting for your party. You're voting for the party that can block the worst party. That's what your vote is. And that's what you need to use your vote for. You don't try to find a friend in this mess. None of them are your friend. You find the most dangerous enemy and you vote to block them. That's what voting should be for everyone. What is the worst thing that can happen to my life? Because you should vote in your own best interest. And you go, okay, I'm voting for those people who I also hate, but they're enemies with them.
Unfortunately,
so I'm voting for the people I hate to block the people that are more dangerous to my life. And that's what politics has become to me. That's all it is. Strategic voting to minimize the damage.
Which is what we live currently in the U.S.
That's my little
drastic damage.
Drastic damage. Oh, whatever, man. Okay. Do we have another one here? Do you think
no one's
there
listening
should
to
be
the rest
a limit?
of this episode, so we're good.
I just alienated everybody. Do you think there should be a limit to how many athletes per division compete at the Olympia?
Oh, I like how it used to be. Is my answer.
3? So there's lots of guys.
I liked lots of guys going because I think what you're running it, and here's why. It wasn't about the Olympia. More guys were competing at other shows because they would just pack it in. The goal is the Olympia. They're not, most of these guys, I don't think a lot of the fans realize, most of these guys aren't making a living off of bodybuilding. So every show is an expense. And their main goal is the Olympia. And most of these guys, bodybuilding is basically a hobby, even though they do it as professionals. So they can't justify competing if it's not going to get them to their goal. So they do a show, they take 5th or they take 7th, and they know that the next show is not going to put them to the Olympia, so why do another show? The depth at the shows I felt like was awesome all the time when the top 3 could get in. And there were 16 guys at the Olympia, but I can tell you I was at the Olympia in 03, which I think had 16 guys, and every physique up there was fucking awesome. The 16th place guy was better than I ever was, and it was awesome. I mean, so I think I hate that part. I do understand the other divisions, and honestly, I don't watch them, so I don't give a shit. But bodybuilding, female bodybuilding, I just want to see the best people on stage because I think we forget. We're talking about the top, let's call it 20 in the fucking world. I've never been the top 20 in the world at anything I've ever done in my life. So yeah, the top 20 is a badass group of people. I want to see all of them. And I paid for a show. I want to watch a show. Maybe we could stop the bullshit that happens during bodybuilding shows. Like, I don't need to see an acrobat. I don't give a fuck. Give me more bodybuilders to watch.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree. I think that when they used to let the top 3, and remember it was the top 5 from the Arnold, and the top 5 from the Night of Champions.
Night Champions, yep.
Those 2 shows. And then it was the top 10 from last year's Olympia.
Oh,
those
wow.
guys were all qualified. Do you remember those days?
Mm-hmm.
Those guys were all qualified. So what would happen is, the guys who were, 7th, 8th, 9th, they usually wouldn't do a show unless they wanted to win some money. Like maybe they thought they could win an Arnold or something. So those guys would jump in a show. Maybe a couple of top 5 guys might do a show, like Flex Wheeler would do the Arnold, that sort of thing. You'd get some of the guys would do other shows. Some of them would just sit on their qualification to come to the Olympia next year because they were just happy to be top 10 and they just wanted to focus. But then all the other shows I thought were more competitive because top 3 went to the O. And if you're a pro and you're not going to win, but you might get top 3, like fuck. So they would do they would hit a couple shows, try to get a top 3 placing so they could go to the O. And it made those shows really exciting. And I don't mind seeing 20 guys at the O. Like I remember there was some lineups that were pretty big. I didn't mind it.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd take that.
Went there to see bodybuilding, And I think that we get this now. Like we'll see, okay, there's Steve Kuklo and Andrew Jacked and fucking Kamal are doing the Texas Pro. Like 99.5% of the other pros are like, oh, why bother? Like,
well, then on the flip,
that show.
Steve Kuklo's not in the Olympia this year again.
Yeah, but he's top 3 at the show, obviously.
Yeah, at any show that's not the Olympia or the Arnold, like possibly the Arnold even. And to me, that's a crime that he's not going and a bad business move. Because if I'm a Kuklo fan, I will go to the Olympia to watch him get in the top 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you go back to
thing too is,
go ahead.
Well, Kuklo, it's going to discourage competitors. Like Kuklo, he's a bit of an older bodybuilder. He's late 30s, right? So, how many more years is he going to keep hammering away if he misses the O?
Yeah.
And you don't want to lose Steve Kuklo. Like, he's fucking awesome. He'd be great at the O. He brings fans, puts asses in seats. Everyone loves him, but they're a loss.
Yeah, I really do wish they'd go back, though, because there's a lot of that. I mean, to see a guy like that not in the show is a crime to me because, like you just said, he enters the show and the first thought is, well, he'll probably win, which tells you how good he is. If he's entering any show, I mean, if he enters the Arnold, there's a chance he can win the Arnold. So it's like, how is a guy who's considered as a possibility to win the Arnold Classic not going to be at the Olympia because we just chose to make it weird? Like, so what if some guys get in? Like, I think it's kind of backwards. So we treat the entrance into the professional ranks is getting easier and easier, but then the entrance into the Olympia is getting harder and harder. I mean, we can all admit that there are plenty of pro cards out there. I mean, I've met some people. They're like, I'm a pro. I'm like, oh, what? Bodybuilding. I'm like, oh, weird. Like, yeah. And you're just like, okay. And I'm fine with them having their moment, but that's the end. See, when you stretch that Olympia qualification out, it's still not going to run into a guy like me or a guy like them getting in the Olympia. So you're not fucking up the Olympia. Like, I mean, I can say it like that because it's true. Like, Dusty Hanshaw is not going to pop into the Olympia now that the top 3 make it. So,
and also, too,
what
about guys that win more than one show? You get some guys that win 2 shows. And they don't pass that qualification on to anybody.
They used to push it down, remember? Like if the top 3 already qualified, then the next 3 were qualified.
Yeah, or at least one. I think they did that at one point where if the top 3 in a show were already qualified, they would let the 4th guy go.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I know what you mean.
Makes sense.
I don't know. Yeah, yeah. Plus, you also love another element is I used to love when a guy would get into the O on a third place qualification, but then he would show up at the O improved and he would beat some guys that were ahead of him at the show he got in at.
Yeah.
And maybe make top 10 out of the blue or something like that. There's also that, I love giving people the chance to do that. You get all those like underdogs in there. You get like 10 underdogs in there battling.
Let's factor in this. And I know a lot of our viewers won't know this, but I don't think Gunter Schlierkamp won a show to get the Olympia where he took 5th.
No.
I don't think he
didn't.
So that qualification was either a 3rd place, a 2nd place, or the previous Olympia, whatever it was. We'll have to look it up. But it definitely wasn't a win. So he would have never even been on that stage to bypass so many guys, steal the show, essentially. I mean, literally, that's all everybody talked about.
Won the crowd.
Where the fuck did you come from? He wouldn't have been at that show on today's rules.
No, and decision? You know who else would have barely done the Olympia? Marcus Rule would have barely done an Olympia. Maybe a couple.
He won 2 shows. He won the Toronto Pro and the New York
Toronto Pro,
Night of Champions.
New York Pro. Yeah.
Yep.
Toronto Pro and Night of Champions, yeah.
And I think they might have been in the same year. I think those might have been in the same year even. So once.
So like I remember all those years I went to the O and Rule would come out, and I just caught the tail end of Rule. I caught like his last few Olympias. But like to not have Marcus Rule there would have been like a missing moment, because like the whole crowd goes Rule, and it's like the whole room changed for Marcus Rule because he was a fan favorite.
Yeah, he'd get 8th.
He didn't get applause. He got Rule. Yeah. And it was like awesome. And you're like, oh, that guy's like a little special. Like the crowd knows that he's separate. They treat him different. He's like he's a factor in the show. He's not going to win it, but the crowd fucking happy he's here, and they'd go nuts for him, And he's like 11th.
Agreed. Yeah.
When's the last time an 11th place guy changes the whole room?
Yeah.
True.
Those were good days, man. Fun Olympias.
You wonder how they got away from that. Now they're sitting at like I have to think, especially now the Olympia has changed hands and they can communicate ideas. Like purely from a business standpoint, I'd be like, I need Kuklo in the show. I mean, for fuck's sakes, his family alone is 72 people. They're all getting tickets. I mean, Steve has the best tight-knit group of people that follow him I've ever seen. I mean, no exaggeration, 20 people from like his friends go to the Olympia. God damn, I want that guy in my show.
And then there's a couple hundred live streams on there too, at least.
Yeah,
exactly. You don't even think about that. Crazy.
I got one. Dusty's going to love this one.
Boats and hose?
Dusty's going to love this one. No, boats and hose, yeah. How's this? What life-changing item can you buy for less than $100? So
easy.
What are some life-changing? Okay, let's hear
them.
Dude
wipes.
Dude wipes.
Dude wipes change your life. They even got one with like a hint of mint scent to it, which is like brushing your teeth for your asshole. Amazing.
Right. Yeah. Amazing. Okay.
Craft dinner.
What
Hello, 99 cents.
You still got $90 left.
Yeah,
you still got
99.
$95 left.
You got your dude wipes. You got your Mac.
I could probably list 20 things and still have money left over for my $100. Oh man, let's see. I mean, literally, this is so easy for me. Tupperware is life changing. Imagine a life without Tupperware
with a nice snap lid.
Yeah, that is life changing.
Yeah, that's under $100.
Some good
problem.
You can't go back. It's plastic after that.
OnlyFans memberships, boom, $7.
$7.
Can even buy some for private videos.
I only follow the $2 girls.
He's all about the free accounts. That's volume. I got you. No, but I mean, literally, God, the 100's too big. You got to bring that down to like 6. Then the game gets
$10.
Good.
What can you buy for under $10?
You know what's funny? I have a friend that does this. He and his wife are are rich, like very, very rich. So their rule for Christmas is be creative, and each of you has $100.
Right.
That
it's like
makes it fun. Because you got to think. I mean, and it could be fun. It could be, heartfelt, whatever.
Or you got
$100 when you're rich is hard. Whereas if you're loaded, like, I bought you a Range Rover. She's like, again?
Yeah.
So I don't know. But yeah, 100 is easy to me because, I mean, Chuck Taylor's, for crying out loud. Bam. That is life changing. Have you seen my strength go up as soon as I bought those fuckers? Fact.
I know. I
mean, hell, a good bottle of Tren. Boom.
Yeah.
All right. Do the question again in a week with under $10. We'll try again. I can go all day with 100.
Okay. Let's do under 10 next time. What is there anything you can buy for your gun for under $100? Is there any little, like, what can you get for under $100 that helps you out with your gun?
You can get all sorts of stuff.
Magazine loader.
Yeah, here's the thing is that you buy the gun and you're like, okay, that was $500. That wasn't too bad. But then you buy the magazines, and magazines are $15, $20. But then you want, you get that, like I had that extended magazine, that's going to be like $40, something like. There's all sorts of things you can buy for under $100. You can probably get close to buying like an upgraded trigger. You can get better sights for under $100. You can get a lot of ammo for $100. You can get a lot of stuff. You can do it up. Holster.
Guns are less than I thought they were. Like for just a 9mm. I don't know why. I guess because it's such a amazing piece of equipment to me.
Yeah.
The idea that a gun is so inexpensive blows my mind. I mean, I know people are laughing at me because I'm saying inexpensive, but I mean, like a good handgun is like when I asked you, like, what was that total setup? And it was like off the chain. You were like, oh, like 1,300. I was like, oh,
yeah. You could set something up really nice for, $1,500 maybe with red dot. And I mean, you still have to shoot it. That gets expensive, because the ammo adds up. But yeah, you get
the
nice
gun
setup.
is the down payment on the ammo.
Yeah. You can get a nice setup though.
Sure.
Like a Glock is going to be around like $600 maybe.
Now that I've derailed the question, Ron,
you.
have you been shooting? Ron?
Yeah, I went a couple times now. Here's a question for Scott. If I'm just going to send some rounds, I'm just sending 9mm. I'm just having fun, just trying to group my targets.
Send it
like I was trying. How much should I be spending on bullets? Like what grade of bullet do I actually need? Do I need the best bullets, or can I just go with the cheapest bullets, or do those make my gun dirtier? Like, what do you advise? Mid-range bullets? Like, what do you do?
They say that steel-cased ammo isn't as good for your gun. It'll wear the parts out quicker. And that might be kind of true. And you know what? For your
as
situation,
opposed to brass, you mean?
Yeah, maybe for your situation, you might want to consider it more. For me, I'd be like, yeah, I've run 5,000 rounds for this gun. It's still working fine. Down the road, I might need to buy a new gun. Okay. You might not have that option. So for you, I would say probably run brass, but you don't need anything special, just like standard brass, 115 grain rounds, just range ammo.
Pumped up a couple boxes of some Federals that I bought.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Something like that.
How much is a couple boxes of those?
What do they cost up there?
Oh, fuck. Shit. I don't even know what I paid, man. I just tapped my card.
Like $15
I don't even fucking know.
About like 15.
Fucking, that's funny. I bought like a case, and I bought like my eyewear and stuff, so I don't actually know what I paid for the ammo.
Yeah.
I'm so happy right now because this is something I wouldn't have known about, Ron. Because that's me. I'll come home and Nikki's like, what'd you spend on groceries? I'm like, I don't know. She's like, what do you mean you don't know? I'm like, I put it in a bag. I tapped my phone. I double-clicked. It got the face recognition. We were done.
Yeah.
I put it in the bag. I know I scanned everything. Ron doesn't know. I would have guessed that Ron would have been like 87.26, give or take.
Oh, that's funny. I don't even remember what I paid.
Yeah. It's all right.
I'm so proud right now. I'm so proud. This is great.
No, I thought it was more than that, though. How much did you say? How much did you say you thought it was?
So, well, here you might pay for 9mm around 15, and I'll say, like to be generous, I'll say around 15 to 20. If you go to the range, you might spend $20
on how many?
For 50 rounds, a 50 round box. Okay. Yeah. You might spend 20 if you buy it from the range, maybe even a little bit more, 25 or something. But I'd say 15 is a good price. That's about what I usually pay, between 13.
I just realized how much ammo I bought my mom's boyfriend for Christmas because I didn't know. I gave him $1,000 for ammo.
That's good.
That would.
That's
work.
good.
How much is that? Like,
so you can get a case of like 1,000 rounds of 9mm for maybe $400 if you're shopping around.
Oh, cool. So you got a bunch. Yeah.
Yeah, you got a couple thousand
That's
rounds.
fun. I just didn't really know how much that was. Because I just know when I used to go with my buddies to the range and they had like, he worked for a protection company.
Yeah.
I just realized how much we used. And I was like, oh, you need a lot.
Yeah.
Because we wasted so much, you know?
Yeah. And you can
you fire off when you go, usually, like 300, 400?
It depends, but yeah, maybe like it depends on what I'm doing. If I go to the one range where I can draw, then I'm only firing usually like 1 to 3 rounds each time I draw. And then I holster and I reset my timer, hit start, wait, and go. So like in an hour, I could really, if I was careful with it, I could shoot really even 50 rounds in 30 minutes. Maybe something like that. Okay. So you could be really conservative with it. Or if you want to do like a bill drill where you have to fire off a bunch of rounds at once to try to work on keeping it tight with rapid fire, then it's going to, you can eat up through the rounds fast that way.
Yeah. So $50. I guess I paid $49.99.
That's not bad. That's not for two boxes for 100 rounds.
Yeah, 100 rounds.
Yeah, that's not too bad then. Yeah, it's range prices.
100 round pack.
Yeah,
round pack.
That's range prices for sure. That's good.
Yeah. Okay.
It's amazing.
Okay.
You could do better probably if you guys have online, but I don't even know if you guys can. It might be like a federal crime to ship ammo in the mail in Canada,
Yeah. No, you can order it and have it shipped. But there's the store that I go to is like 2 minutes from the gym.
Yeah.
Like everything is just so close to the gym here, so it's awesome. Okay.
Awesome.
That's funny. I'm glad I made you proud, Dusty.
You did. It was an amazing moment.
Here's one for you. Someone's got a music question.
That's for you.
What's the band that you hate that everyone else loves?
Maroon 5.
Does everybody else really love Maroon 5?
I think everyone hates them. I don't know how they're so popular. I can't deal with
Who's
his
the singer
voice.
for Maroon 5 again? The singer, famous guy?
Adam Levine.
Adam Levine. It was funny because I was standing in Vegas by the poker tables, and I was with a couple of people, and all of a sudden the one girl, she started freaking out. She's like, oh my God, that's Adam Levine. And I was like, where? She's like, right beside you. And I was like standing Adam Levine was sitting at a table playing poker, like right beside us. It's funny. And then I looked at him and I was like, oh yeah, that is him. He's got all the tats and stuff. It was kind of funny. But that's my only Maroon 5 story.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you don't have more.
So as far as like, I don't really know what other people like now, but as far as classic rock bands go, I just couldn't do Pink Floyd. And as much of a Canadian as I am, and as much respect as I have for them for being amazing musicians,
I know you're going to say.
I'm not a Rush fan.
I knew you were going to say Rush.
I'm not a Rush fan.
Yeah.
I just can't do Rush. I can't do Pink Floyd. But I understand that they are both like unbelievably important musical groups that have like influenced and changed all the music that I do love. Like all the bands that I really love, they list Rush and Pink Floyd. Like, so I wish I wouldn't.
Doesn't even really make sense.
Right. It's like, it doesn't really make sense. But yeah, I just couldn't get into either one of those bands,
What about you, Scott?
Respect, but nah.
I will say I went through a Pink Floyd phase, early 90s. They're in like the whole drug portion of my life.
I was gonna say that, but I know that was a funny joke.
Yeah.
I was like, am I allowed to make that joke?
Yeah. I like Pink Floyd a lot at that point. Like there's so many like layers to the music. And you ever notice that like
there is.
I can't remember what song it was. It wasn't even Pink Floyd, but I remember hearing it all my life and then hearing it after I smoked weed. And I heard this sound, this one little sound that was happening in the music that I had never heard before. And then after that, I always could hear it. Like it was something I just never picked up on. And I feel like Pink Floyd really had like a lot of those textures, you know, that like there was so many little things you could hear.
That's one of the things about them. Like I've sat and listened to Pink Floyd on purpose before. Like on purpose. I even tried. Yeah, well, I listened to Dark Side of the Moon myself once. Like I was at home one night, I smoked a joint, made a meal, and I listened to the Dark Side of the Moon album.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like I get it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's complex. It's layered. There's so much going on. They're like another level of musicianship above.
It's different. There's like nobody like them, you know?
No, but it was just like, it didn't rock. Like it was like floating in space. It wasn't like, fucking, you know, I need something. I got a lot of this, Scott. I got a lot of this.
I gotta get it out.
Gotta
get out.
They gotta get it out.
We just got the clip.
Ron's such a nice guy. Ron's such a nice guy. Ron's such a nice guy. It's like, that's because I get it out. I got ways to get it out. You know,
it's not Pink Floyd, and it's not Pink Floyd.
Not at all.
Wow.
If I didn't have my exits, I would just explode. So
the clarity that I just got on what Pink Floyd is not, is very clear now.
At least very to Ron, clear. What Pink Floyd is not to Ron, right?
I'm accepting.
I need help
because
I need help with certain things.
These are Ron's rules. We have more rules. Holy shit.
Okay. Let's I want to talk about one thing. I just thought that I'd throw this up because I thought it was like, you know, up our alley. But I sent this to you guys. I just wanted to take a minute. I saw that Ben Chow posted this the other day, and it's just a picture of Luke.
Oh yeah.
This picture of Luke. And bonkers. You know, bonkers. And it's funny to look at this picture now, isn't it? And think, what the fuck? How would he be doing now?
Yeah, no kidding.
Crop.
Man, that would be cool.
A couple years later, it's
it'd be cool to see him battling with like Nick Walker.
I do not think an Olympia was out of hand for him at all.
No,
because he was still getting the mental side down, but he was getting it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Chris and him had found their formula, and he had complete trust in Chris, which took away a lot of the issue he had coming into shows.
Yeah.
I'm sure some people don't get it, but like knowing the behind the scenes that I know about, just he didn't know how good he was. No. I mean, and there's a bunch of those. I don't think a lot of guys who haven't been this close, some of these guys can even imagine. And Ron and I've talked about this before, like him, Cedric McMillan. There's a guy who you look at him pose and you don't even know what to say because there's so much going on. And then when you tell him, you're like, Ced, you look nuts. He's like, do I? And he means it. He's like, really?
I'm a little flat.
How do you not know? How do you not know this? Like if I would, like Luke locked in, I would feel very confident saying he would win at least an Olympia or two, which I know he said he was only going to win one and be done, but I really think he could have won one. And as I told you guys when you sent that, I credit the world shutdowns for him not giving the chance to do that.
Yeah. I tell this story all the time. I've told it before on the show, but like, you know, not to make myself sound old, but I've seen a lot of bodybuilders, like a lot. Like I've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of guys that were awesome and they're going to be pros and this guy's got it and you should see this guy. I've seen so many of them, and I'll never forget the first time I saw Luke at the Body Power Expo. Didn't have a clue who he was. He was still an amateur. He was at another supplement company booth right next to the Mutant booth, wearing his floppy rider wear shoes and a pair of shorts and a tank top. And I remember I walked up to the Mutant booth and put my bag down and looked over at his booth. And my first thought was, who the fuck is that? That guy's got everything.
Yeah.
He's got everything. He was standing there in short and tank tops, and I knew. I looked at him and I'm like, I'm no dummy. That guy's got everything. Who the fuck's that guy? And I walked right over to him. And I was like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, Ron Partlow. I remember. He knew who I was. And I was like, hey. And he's like, I'm Luke. And I was like, hey. And we just started talking. And I realized he wasn't a pro yet. And I was just like, what the fuck? And there was like, you see some people and you think, oh, I'm in a room full of guys that are all aspiring pro bodybuilders. And you're like, oh, that's what they're all against. They're competing against that guy with that package, those genetics, those muscle bellies. I remember thinking, like, I knew it was the end for me soon. You know, there's only so much space in this bodybuilding. I got to figure out something else to do if the guys like this aren't even pro yet. This is fucking stupid. I remember thinking that.
I just had a memory of something that had to do with him that I forgot about this. I never mentioned it on the podcast before, but it was the second time he was at the Arnold, and I was sitting at prejudging in the press area this time. The time before was when Jordan, I believe, was coaching him, and Jordan came over, and so I was sitting with Jordan and Scott Stevenson, and we watched him, and he didn't do as great, you know, but then he came back and he really he surprised himself at that show. I think he got third, but during prejudging, I was sitting there not too far back. And at this moment when they were doing their poses, it got quiet and I yelled out. I was like, because he used to do this podcast called The Size Game. And
I was on it.
Yeah. I remember hearing that one. And I yelled out
twice.
And I yelled out, I go, Size Game podcast, like real loud. And at that moment, the room also got quiet. So like I just was the only voice, just like bellowed that out. And then he hit his pose, you know? And then later backstage, I was like, hey, did you hear someone yell this out? He was like, yeah, I heard that. And I was like, yeah, that was me. He was like, oh my God. Size Game awesome. Podcast. Yeah.
Silent room.
Yeah. I'm sure people are like, what the fuck is that guy doing? But I didn't care, you know?
Right. You're like me at the Dallas show a couple weeks ago. Just yelling, no one else yelling, just silent.
Yeah. That's the way it should be.
I always loved hearing that when he got third, he had forgotten how much money he was going to make.
Yeah,
he was just amped to have done well. He forgot he was getting any money at all.
That was the
oh my God.
I got that video.
Didn't Chris say, like, what are you using? What are you going to spend the money on? Just jokingly? And he's like, oh, you're going to check?
No, it was, I don't know if he said it again, but we were backstage, me and VJ, and we saw him, and it was like, I was really uncomfortable because like Arnold's there. It was the area where like, I remember like, I was like, oh my God, dude, I can't believe you did so good. And he was like, yeah. And then Aaron Singerman turned to me. He's like, you got to keep it down back. You got to keep it down back here, you know? Cause like, it was like, not like the fans area. It was like the backstage area. And anyways, I took a picture for him and Aaron. Aaron wanted a picture with him. And then he was like, what are you guys doing? You want to come with me back here where he was like getting his clothes? We're like, yeah, let's go. So we followed him back and I turned my phone on and we got back there and he was putting his stuff down and then he picked up the check again. And I have it on video. I should do something, put it on here or something on YouTube. Maybe like sure. Watch it with Ben or something. Cause I think he would enjoy that. And he was like, holy shit, I forgot I got paid for this. He's like, I got a check. And he pulled it out. And he was like, he was just so pumped because he was just like so taken back. And it was cool. It was a cool video because like William Bonnick, we walked by him and Bonnick was like, there's a new king in town or something like that. And they had a hug and he congratulated him on doing so well. You know, and it's just like he was just beaming, you know. It was a really cool, like a real special moment. I feel really lucky to have had that with him, you know.
Yeah, I remember when that was third at that Arnold, right? Third at the Arnold.
Yeah.
I remember when he got that. I remember being so happy for him because I was like, okay, now everyone is forced to take this guy as seriously as we all know he should be taken. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
You got those cynics that don't even see the physique. They just see the placings, right? Like, I was seventh. It's like, did you see him though? Yeah. You see what he's capable of, you know? Like when I saw him at the expo, he wasn't a pro, but I could just see, I looked at him. I was like, oh my God. Like, that's it. That's what everyone wants to look like. You know, that's the ultimate freak physique. You know, they're standing relaxed and the triceps stick out as far as the delts, you know, you're just like, oh God. So yeah, so funny. Okay. Is that it, boys?
I think we have to end at that note because anything beyond that is downhill.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
And questions for the next show.
Questions on YouTube, they get priority. And so if you got a question, be happy to answer it. One more thing, don't DM me questions. I do screenshot them and I try to save them, but I forget and my phone gets muddled up, and put them on the YouTube or send them to the question boxes. That's the best way to ask questions. I know a lot of you have asked multiple questions through DMs and it's hard to get back to them. There's just so much going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you go. And also, too, I was going to say something else, but I forget now. Doesn't matter.
Mutant?
Oh, yeah, the Mutant thing. Mutant supporting us. So I definitely have noticed a huge uptick in the number of times my code's getting used.
Cool.
So thank you to everyone that's using my code, BigRon20. I'm sure Dusty has seen the same thing. So Dusty20. So remember the codes, IamMutant.com. Thanks to them for supporting the show. New webcam coming for me, so I can make this better. There we go.
I still play that as OnlyFans.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. And remember, it's just bodybuilding.